What does a church bell, a triangle, and the letter M have to do with drawing me, you may ask? Let's find out today on Vader Draws. After I released my Darth Vader cartoon for Star Wars Day, I was inundated with requests for a tutorial on how to draw myself in this style. So let's get out our pencils and get started. We begin by lightly drawing a bell shape. Think of a cookie cutter for a church bell Christmas cookie, and that will give us our general shape of the helmet. After adding our central line, lightly draw 3 lines equal distance from one another. These lines will give us the position for our eye line, nose line, and the brim of the helmet. Remember the M from earlier? Make sure the top of the M rests on the first measuring line, and the middle of the M rests on the eye line. If you can write the letter M, you can draw the brim of the helmet. Now draw a triangle, beginning where the nose line and central line converge. This will create my respirator. And on either side, draw 2 upside-down triangles to represent the cheekbones of my face mask. But if you'll notice, the top edge of the triangle is not sharp, but curved. Once this is complete, draw 2 small circles to represent the tusks and indicate the nose of the mask. Moving right along, draw the eyes, which quite naturally rest directly on the eye line. Now the shape of the eye is a capital D that has been tipped over on its side. So as I have stated before, if you can write, you can draw. Make a smooth arc to indicate the shoulders. Make sure they're nice and wide to give me an imposing appearance. Draw 2 parallel lines to indicate the cape, and 2 slightly curved lines to represent my chest armor. And now, with a pen or by bearing down harder on your pencil, we begin to add our final line work to complete the drawing. Follow along at home, but as I've said before, if your drawing doesn't turn out the way you want it to, don't get discouraged. It takes time to develop the necessary dexterity and control to draw smooth lines, just like when you struggle to learn how to write your name as a child. But if you keep trying, eventually you'll be able to do it. The important thing is to never give up and keep working towards your dreams. It's okay if your artwork isn't perfect, as long as you're putting your heart into it. Work hard and do your best. That's the main thing. Once you've finished your line work, you can shade in the face area of the helmet and the chest armor to give your drawing a more completed look. And now that we've learned how to draw the helmet, let's move on and learn how to draw the full body. The style of my Vader cartoon was a mixture of Batman the Animated Series and Genndy Tartakovsky's Samurai Jack. And while these styles are drastically different at first glance, what they share is a simplification of anatomy. When drawing an arm in a more detailed style, it is important to keep the muscle groups in mind, such as the deltoid, tricep, bicep, and brachioradialis, to give your arm the form and structure it needs to look more realistic. By simplifying the anatomy by one step, we've achieved something in a more cartoon style, while retaining the important muscular shapes. By simplifying the anatomy further, you reduce the human form to a more graphic geometric shape, making it easier to animate. But you'll notice nearly all of the curves and muscular shapes are completely gone, replaced by a simple L shape that travels from the shoulder all the way to the hand of your character. To help you understand how to draw the full body in motion, I'm going to break it down as simply as I can. Begin by drawing the chest and rib cage with a central line to help illustrate where your character is facing. Moving on to the arms, represented by these simple shapes, draw a line 1/2 to 3/4 of the way down each arm and leg. This will be the position of your elbow and knee joints. For the legs, rather than drawing them separately, I drew one sweeping shape. Think of the Nike swoosh. I just inverted it. So when you're drawing your legs, follow Nike's motto here, and what Emperor Palpatine told me on Grievous's ship. Just do it. Now that we have our basic pose, I've begun adding the next layer of detail in a different color so you can see what I'm doing. At each joint, you'll notice I've added a curved line to represent the muscles of the calves and forearms. I've also added the basic shapes of the hands, triangles for the gloves, a square for the belt and chest box. I've also added the shoulder armor and these ovals to represent the shoulder pads. The wind is blowing to the left, so naturally the tunic and cape would be traveling in the same direction. I've also begun adding the final details of the face mask and helmet. Once we have the building blocks for our drawing, we can add the final line work. This is also where we add any finishing details, such as the heel and shape of my boots, the buttons on my chest box, a more refined version of my chest armor, as well as the cheekbones of my respirator, and all of the shading on the interior of my helmet and cape to give the image depth. I also refined the outstretched hand as if I'm using the Force on the enemies of the Empire. Now, along with this tutorial, I've posted step-by-step images on Twitter for you to copy, so you can make your very own Vader art. A link is in the description of this video. Now that you've seen the basics of how I construct a drawing, let's draw a full body action pose. Follow along at home, and if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video so you can catch up. Starting with the chest and rib cage, I will be lunging forward in this drawing, so remember to draw the legs as our inverted Nike swoosh to give the feeling of movement, and remember to draw the dashed line to represent the knees. From the edge of the chest, draw a pair of loose lines that meet in front of the body, with two small boxes to represent the hands grasping the hilt of a light saber. Once the arms are complete, it is time to bring back the bell shape and begin drawing the helmet. The reason I drew the body first was to make sure the head was properly proportioned with the shoulders. Now that our image is beginning to take shape, start adding the rounded shapes to create the forearm and calf muscles. At the base of each leg, draw two triangles to represent the feet. Add ovals for the shoulder pads, and continue with the armor, chest box, and belt, leading to the tunic and cape, which will be blowing to the left. Always remember to keep your lines soft and loose at this point, because we are still building our drawing. After we've finished our cape, move on to the proportion lines we discussed earlier, so we can utilize our M, triangle, and capital D shapes to add the details for the face mask. Now that we have the building blocks, it's time to add our final line work and finish the drawing. I animated my Vader cartoon for Star Wars Day using all of these steps I've just shown you in this video, and I know with enough time, patience, and practice, you can create amazing things. The world we live in is a beautiful and diverse place, filled with endless sources of inspiration. Each and every one of us is a unique individual with their own creative voice and way of looking at the world. We have all been given an imagination. We all have dreams, so share those dreams with the world. I want to encourage you to set aside some time each week to focus on what you love doing, whether it is art, music, writing, or filmmaking. Take the time to create something, and even if it doesn't turn out exactly how you wanted it to, don't get discouraged and never give up. Any art form, like life itself, is a learning process, and we only grow if we step out and try new things. But as we continue to learn and grow, our skills eventually begin to catch up with our dreams, and then the art of creation becomes endlessly compelling. But it is always important to remember to give yourself time to grow. J.R.R. Tolkien did not begin by writing Lord of the Rings. Stan Lee did not begin by creating Spider-Man, and George Lucas did not begin by creating Star Wars. All of these great men started out small, but in time, their dreams eventually became reality and changed the world forever. So instead of focusing on a novel, write a short story. Instead of focusing on an album, write a song. Make a short film. Learn to play an instrument. Instead of a full graphic novel, complete a short comic book. And when it comes to drawing, as I said in my first tutorial, when we first began learning how to draw, our bodies need time to develop the necessary strength and dexterity to control our pencil, much like how we have to learn to write our name as a child. The muscles and coordination to draw take time to develop, just like learning to write. It takes time and work, but eventually, the ability to create entire worlds and characters is truly rewarding. So if you love art, if you want to learn how to draw, keep practicing. You can do it. I promise. And as I finish up this cape here, I just want to say, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. And as I said earlier, I posted step-by-step instructions on Twitter so you can make your own Vader drawings. If you followed along with this tutorial, tweet a picture of your artwork to me, @VaderReviews. This has been Vader Draws. Until next time, I want you to always remember, with time and practice, anyone can draw.